This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 18th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Commissioners, South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners. To get things started tonight, could I first do a roll call, Renee?
Commissioner Walk.
Here.
Commissioner Mobilio.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Seton.
Here.
And Commissioner Morgan.
Here. All right. Thank you, Renee. If everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. I'd like to note that all public sessions of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners are electronically recorded, filed, and posted on board docs for public access. I'd also like to note that the board did meet in executive session right prior to this public session to discuss legal matters. That being said, we're going to move right into our agenda for discussion this evening. And first on our agenda for consideration and possible action are the November 4th, 2020 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes. So I will give a minute or two for the board to go over those and consider a possible action on the November 4th meeting minutes. Everybody was present for that meeting. Were there any questions or comments from the board on the November 4th meeting minutes?
Commissioner Morgan, I do have one correction. Under direction and discussion, there actually was, it says that there are none in the minutes, but actually I did bring up a conversation regarding budget and made some requests for Excel spreadsheets for budget meetings, as well as financial reports for months, end of month for August and September of this year. And that was not included in the minutes.
Okay. Well, that's really up to the board if we want to go into the detail of things that are requested. You know, as we had talked about in the past, to follow Robert's rules, it was meant for decisional actions. But I'll defer to the full board. I'm not sure if it's, you know, I'll defer to the board on changing the meeting minutes to include requests for information. I mean, it's included in the meeting minutes recording. I'm not sure if we need to have it because it wasn't a decisional action in the minutes written up to make modifications to it. But I'll defer to the board for your thoughts as well.
I just have a comment. I mean, on one hand, Commissioner Kelly raises it as, you know, it should have been included in meeting minutes. Probably the more important issue is, you know, there needs to be follow-up and ensure that the action item is taken and completed. So
I believe all that was taken and completed, Mike. Yeah. I believe all that information was provided. I guess what we want to avoid doing is getting into another situation where, you know, every single thing that was said or requested at the meeting, if it wasn't an action item or a decisional action, because there was not a motion or anything for that particular request. Do we want to put all that stuff in the minutes? Where do you draw the line? That's why we decided to go with the Roberts rule. But, you know, again, I'll defer to the board on your thoughts on that.
Commissioner Morgan, I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as they're written today.
I have one more comment aside from Commissioner Kelly's, if I may.
Absolutely, Commissioner Walk.
Okay, so it's not in the November 4th meeting minutes per se. I spoke with Renee about this about an hour ago, and Renee has already sent an email to Tracy Fennell. Thankfully, I appreciate it. On November 4th, I commented about the October 21st meeting minutes where one of my votes was indicated incorrectly, where it was indicated I voted yes when actually I voted no.
I remember.
So I asked for that to be changed. I checked board docs. The October 21st minutes weren't changed yet. So Renee said she would ask Tracy to make that change, and I appreciate if they would follow through and do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was part of the last meeting minutes conversation. I remember that.
Lori,
Renee?
just a correction there. I talked with Tracy, and actually where they were attached to the November 4th meeting, they were not updated, but they were updated in the actual summary of minutes on the front page of board docs. So, but we will correct the other ones, and but it has been taken care of already.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Renee. And thanks, Mike, for bringing that to our attention. Yep, no problem. Okay, are there any other questions or comments on the meeting minutes? We do have a motion on the floor for acceptance of the meeting minutes as they stand from Commissioner Mobilio. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Seton. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Seton.
Aye.
And Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, next this evening, we have on the agenda our presentation. This is the first reading of the 2021 budget. Scott will be presenting that to us this evening. Prior to that, Renee has a few words. I just want to start off by saying staff did a phenomenal job in putting together this 2021 budget. This has been an extremely unique year in 2020 and certainly unique in how we have to consider moving forward into 2021. And we are very appreciative for the hard work and efforts that all of the staff at South Whitehall Township has done to ensure that we stay fiscally responsible and looking at every avenue that we need to look at to keep costs down and keep our services top notch every day for our residents and businesses. So thank you, staff. So Renee, I'll hand it over to you for introduction, and then Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of summarizing what Commissioner Morgan had said, it's been a unique year with COVID and adjustments made, but staff has done a phenomenal job. This budget is a culmination of a lot of hours of work from our department heads and the internal staff team who did a great job putting this together. We did meet on 4 budget workshops. And so, again, this is a culmination of that work. Tonight is the public reading, so Scott will give an overview of each of the funds, the revenues and the expenses, and then there will be a public inspection copy available of the budget. So with that, I will turn it over to Scott.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the first public reading of the budget, the first fund I would like to highlight is the general fund. We took a long look at our revenues and our expenses and have tried to offer no tax increase to the residents for this year in the general fund, and will be successful in that. So for our revenue, the amount of money that we project bringing in for our property tax is $6,859,581. For our transfer tax, we have $650,000. Local services tax, $675,000. Earned income tax, $3.3 million. Business privilege tax, $2,145,000. Admissions tax, $800,000. Our cable TV revenue, $325,000. Licenses, permits, fees, $479,480. Interest, $8,500. Grants and gifts, $254,684. with an offset for discounts on real estate tax for $152,843, which will bring us to a total revenues in the general fund of $15,344,402. For expenses in the general fund, administrative expenses added up to $6,418,325. Expenses for the police, $5,708,228. Expenses for public works, $3,525,820. And expenses for parks and recreation, $322,930. The sum total of expenses is $15,975,303, with a net loss of $630,901 in the general fund. We have a cash carry forward, estimated cash carry forward of $3,189,790 in the general fund, with cash payments for debt, including $506,500, and transfers out for our capital fund and our contribution to the Saturnia Ambulance Corps, as well as our contribution to the Fiscal Stability Fund of $1,549,218. At our budgeted unappropriated reserve for the general fund for the 2021 budget is $503,171. Moving on to our capital fund. Our capital fund revenues includes grant revenues totaling $539,700. Our capital fund expenses for the police, these are $212,063. Our capital expenses for public works total $1,385,455. And our capital expenses for the Parks and Recreation Department are $411,400. All in all, total expenses in the capital fund, $2,008,918, giving us revenues minus expenses of negative $1,469,218, and an estimated cash carry forward of $9,700 in that fund as well. Our transfers in include $1,469,218, leaving us with a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $9,700. In our next fund, which is the State Highway Aid Fund, our revenues are only comprised of grants for this, and that is totaling $657,071 for total revenues. For expenses, we have $350,000 for administrative expenses and $588,229 in public works expenses. This totals $938,229 in expenses in the State Highway Aid Fund, leaving us with revenues minus expenses of negative $281,158, with an estimated cash carry forward of $304,299, which gives us a $23,141 budgeted unappropriated reserve in the State Highway Aid Fund. Moving on to the Refuse Fund. In terms of revenues, we have $118,000 in grants. Revenues also includes $2,758,800 in the billed fees, with an offset of $2,100 of miscellaneous revenue. That leaves us with $2,874,700 in total revenue for the Refuse Fund. For expenses in the Refuse Fund, these total $2,708,487. Total revenues less expenses add up to $166,213. We have an estimated cash carry forward of $612,482, with a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $778,695. Our next fund is the water fund. Our water fund revenue is comprised of billed fees totaling $4,226,900 and miscellaneous of $38,500. Total revenues in the water fund sum to $4,265,400. Our expenses in the water fund in the administration section are $3,132,375 with $1,234,400 in capital investment in water and sewer system improvements, leaving us with a total expense of $4,366,775. Our revenues less expenses sums to negative $101,375 with an estimated cash carry forward of $1,420,581. We also have cash outlay for debt payments for the water fund of $166,500, as well as a transfer to the sewer fund in the amount of $10,000. All in all, for the water fund, we have a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $1,142,706. In the sewer fund, for revenues, we have $10,500 in licenses and permits and fees. We have $500 in work on property revenue, $3,196,000 in billed fees, and $321,000 in miscellaneous charges, totaling $3,520,000 in total revenue for the sewer fund. Our expenses for the sewer fund include for administrative $2,614,209 and $1,042,500 in capital investment in sewer systems. Our total expenses total $3,656,709, adding up to revenue minus expenses of negative $128,709, with an estimated cash carry forward of $3,680,731 and transfers in of $10,000 from the water fund, totaling up to $3,562,022 of a budgeted unappropriated reserve. Our fiscal stability fund has we just have a cash carry forward for this, $2,321,884, and that is taking into account the $50,000 that transfers in from the general fund, leaving us with a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $2,321,884. Our EMS, this is our contribution to the Citroni Ambulance Corps. It's $30,000 for administrative expense, which is showing us a total expenses of $30,000 and revenue minus expenses of negative $30,000, with a transfer in from the general fund of $30,000, leaving us with $0 for our budgeted unappropriated reserve. Lastly, our fire fund. Our fire fund revenues include fire tax money in the amount of $1,110,297, which is our total revenue amount. Our total expenses include $1,106,997, giving us a total revenue minus expenses of $3,300, with a cash carry forward of $602,072, and at the end of the year, having a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $605,372. This concludes the first reading of the budget.
Thanks, Scott. Are there any questions or comments from the board on the first reading of the budget?
Yes, I have one question, Scott. You probably covered this during the workshops, but my memory's not serving me very well. Could you explain the general fund transfer out and the capital fund transfer in? Is that the same money being transferred, and how does that work?
Let me pull my worksheet up, Mike.
Mike, that's correct. Your transfers out of your capital fund and your transfers into general fund should be equivalent, yes.
Yeah, I think it's the other way around, but it's just transferring that money to cover the capital fund cost. That's the way it appears.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple of observations, or I guess just general questions. I know that we did meet in our 4 workshops, so I want to thank the staff for pulling this together and presenting it to us. I just wanted to follow up. I know that I believe it was Scott who had mentioned that our audit for 2016 is slated to be completed next year. And I just wanted to follow up because I had been under the understanding that that was actually something that was slated to be almost done in July. And I'm just kind of curious where we are so we can get a good starting point as we're working on looking at next year's budget.
That's not correct. The 2016 audit is essentially completed. It's been in the hands of our auditors as we had discussed. And 2017 and 18 budgets are in progress.
And do we have a target date for them to be brought to the board?
I don't have a target date for the board, no.
Okay, thank you for that. And then one other question that I came across late this afternoon. I saw that we had reestablished the Wares Dam money that had been put aside in our budget. Looks like $150,000 is back in a restricted fund. And my memory is back in May, this board had voted to actually move that to an unrestricted fund, and it was moved by motion. And so since that money was moved out by motion, does it not need to be moved back in by a motion of the board?
I'm not quite sure that it was moved out of the restricted fund by motion. I would have to look back at the wording of that. I believe that the motion was that if the money was needed during COVID for expenses, it was money that would be available for use. So that was my recollection, unless somebody else, I'm not quite sure that the motion was to move it out of an unrestricted fund, but that it would be available for use if need be. And the fiscal stability is not a
Check on that. I did go back and listen to the audio this afternoon late because I couldn't remember myself, and that was what I had heard in that meeting. So that's something that I would like us to look at, and if it was moved out by motion, then it would seem like a motion would need to be done by this board to move it back in to an unrestricted, to a restricted fund to be used for Wares Dam.
Joe Zader, I mean, would we need to do that since you're going from a 2020 budget to a 2021 budget? I mean, that
it would seem to me that the budget right now is a reading but not a vote. If the budget reflects a movement of that Wares Dam fund, then I think that the approval by the board of the budget, when that occurs in the future at a future meeting, that would serve the purpose of reversing the motion, whatever that was several months ago regarding the Wares Dam fund.
right, it'd be all encompassing.
But
A special motion wouldn't be
recognize
needed.
that this reading of the budget is not moving that fund that Commissioner Kelly spoke about. That would only be by action by the board, either by motion now or motion and vote on the budget as a whole at a later date.
So Attorney Zader, as a follow-up, in general, when monies are moved from a fund by motion, they would technically be needing a motion to move it back. It comes from the direction of the board.
I believe that's a correct statement.
Okay. Thank you. And,
Where are
sorry.
those funds right now, if I may ask?
Well, again, we had read that motion that if it was as needed, so the money did not move out of the money market that it currently sits in. So there was no movement of that money because it was not needed.
Okay, thank you.
And just one other follow-up. I know that historically the board has been given a budget book before the first reading of the book, and I know we just had our final workshop late last night. So is that something that's going to be forthcoming to the members of the board?
Yes.
Yes, I think we had discussed that at the other budget workshop as well, that once the first reading was completed and the budget workshop was completed last night, that the binders would be made. So the finance staff is currently working on them.
Right. I thought you had said they'd be delivered today, so we'd have them prior to the first reading. So if they're coming tomorrow or sometime this week, just let me know. That would be great.
I have one question. It's actually a follow-up question. So I'd like to preface it by saying thank you to Renee and Scott and everybody who has supported all the efforts to prepare this budget and also complete the audits from the previous years. And we know it's an incredible amount of work to accomplish all in a short period of time. I also appreciate the commitment to complete the 2017 and 2018 audits. Renee, just highlighted she doesn't have a date just yet. Could we ask you to review what's required to complete the audits, either internally or externally, and come back to us in some reasonable period of time and let us know the dates when you think those two audits could be completed?
Mike, that's an active process, and obviously when they get to the point that's dependent on the auditor as well with their audit schedule. So again, that's a moving target that is worked on a regular basis with Scott and his team. They provide lists, Scott's teams provides lists back, and so again, we actively work with them, but again, that's a moving target as information is provided back and forth. But again, once those audits are issued, they will be presented to the board.
Okay, thank you.
I think Renee, if I understand Mike's question correctly, I think and I know it's a moving target based on the information and the work that our auditors are doing. I think and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding what you're asking, is a tentative timeline, just or a feedback every so often on what the status is, understanding that when the audits are complete, they do come to the full board for approval, but just a timeline leading up to that. Is that what you're getting at, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
for interpreting so accurately. Okay. I mean, it would be just good to know, like in 2021, what quarter might the work be able to be done? I mean, it'd be good to have some sense of how far out might it be to complete the work. That's.
Well,
I'm not asking for an exact date. It'd just be good to know, roughly.
Mike, if I may, this is what I have been primarily working on for the last year or so. So I can speak to this a bit. As far as work by the staff, we are 100% through the 2016 audit. That is in the hands of our auditors. They're reviewing it. The review process for audits is rigorous, and it's not necessarily a quick turnaround, although we would love that. Our 2017 audit, we are about halfway through that. We are in daily and weekly communications with our audit firm, and we are working very hard to get these done. And I have been working around the clock on this, though the last month of life has been primarily spent on the budget. So that's where we're at specifically to your question. I hope that helps.
Okay. Well, I like the one thing you said, Scott. It's better to be right than to be fast.
Yes.
And I just have a general follow-up to that. And once we are caught up, and for example, in a typical year, I know based on state statute, we are required to do an audit once a year. So once the end of the year closes, when would one expect to see a completed audit in that following year? Just as a general idea.
In a normal year?
Yes.
I would say
depends.
normal year, it depends, but we would hope to be out in the end of the first or second quarter.
So certainly
Diane, the deadline for that for an entity of our size and our government type is 270 days after January 1st. So it'd be by September 30th in a normal year.
In a normal year. Okay, Scott, that's very helpful to know. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board?
Tori, there's a chat question from Manley about the transfer out appears to be 50,000 more than the transfer in.
Yeah, I can explain that. That I mentioned in the estimated cash carry forward for the fiscal stability fund, the $2,321,884, that included the 50,000 for the Wares Dam project. So I will properly reflect that on for the next reading in the transfers in for the capital fund. So that $2,321,000 will go down to $2,271,000 with a $50,000 transfer in. So thank you for that, Manley. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Manley. Mr. Robert Hodges had a question. Robert?
Yeah, Robert Hodges, 1707 Pence Crossing. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry, Mr. Barrett?
It's Barrett.
Barrett, okay. I believe you just stated that the audit is supposed to be completed within 270 days of the end of the year. And yet we're just finishing 2016 and 2017. I don't understand. If it's required to be finished within 270 days, why are we so far behind?
That is an excellent question. I'll let Renee field this one.
We have done different audit work since we have had, we switched audit firms since our embezzlement in 2012. So we have done extensive audit work and refining our audits. So that is the reason we are doing 16 and 17, 18 and 19 all in one year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have another question in the chat. I'm not sure if Teddy wants to talk directly, but his question is, will the budget be posted on the website tonight?
It will be posted for a public inspection copy tomorrow.
Will that be right on the screen, Renee, the website, or do they have to go into finance?
I'll have to check where it is exactly, but we will post it onto we can put a link up to it under the front page on the scrolling.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public on the first reading of the budget this evening? All right, hearing none. Scott, Renee, thank you very much. And we will be hearing it again. So thank you. Moving on in our agenda for this evening, we have no ordinances for consideration. However, we do have one resolution, or well, actually, we're going to go a little bit out of order because we need to look at one of the motions before we consider a resolution. So I'm going to jump in the agenda a little bit. We have a motion for consideration this evening to proceed with the adoption of the entire civil service eligibility list for patrol officer in the South Whitehall Township Police Department. Chief Dorney, I'll let you talk to this one, and then we can move back up to resolutions for consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. Good evening, Commissioners. In front of you, well, virtually tonight, in opportunity to request that you adopt the newly certified civil service eligibility list for the patrol officer position in South Whitehall Township Police Department. We have completed the written exam through the Lehigh County Chiefs of Police Consortium test, conducted interviews, and put all the applicable military points on the people who get those. And we've compiled a list, and we would actually ask that you adopt it this evening. It, like I said, it has been approved and certified by the Civil Service Commission on Monday, the 16th, and it will be in front of you this evening for adoption so we can start the hiring process off said list.
Thank you, Chief Dorney. Any questions for Chief Dorney on this particular motion to proceed with the adoption of the civil service eligibility list from the board?
Chief Dorney, I just had one question just to refresh my memory. During the budget presentation, I believe you said that South Whitehall Police Department is down 2 officers. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Do I hear a motion then to proceed with the adoption of the entire civil service eligibility list?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make a
There's a
motion.
motion on the floor from Commissioner Seton. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Mobilio. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. All right, to
Thank you very
go
much.
right along with that particular motion, I'm going to move back up to the resolutions for consideration and possible action this evening. And in front of us, we have a resolution extending a conditional offer of employment to the entry-level position of patrol officer in the Township's Police Department to candidates number 64855 and 87379, conditional upon the individual satisfactorily completing medical and psychological examinations to confirm their fitness for duty. Chief Dorney.
Yes, just as the resolution reads, would like permission to proceed with a conditional offer of hire for those 2 candidates by number. That will allow us to start our background investigation process. This is certainly not a guarantee that neither one of these parties will actually be on the police department. Just means that we are allowed to start probing into their backgrounds and make sure they are a good fit for the South Whitehall Township Police Department. We can ask them the questions that we need to ask to make sure they meet our standards and their backgrounds are clean enough to serve the community of South Whitehall Township. So I'm respectfully requesting that we move forward with the conditional offer of hire for these 2 candidates.
Thank you, Chief Dorney. Any questions from the board on this particular resolution extending a conditional offer?
I have a comment.
Sure, Commissioner Walk.
I support it.
Is that your comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Any other questions? All right, any questions from the public? We have somebody who has some background. If you're not speaking, if you could put your, thank you. All right.
Morgan, it looks like the chat box was disabled. just till right now. I didn't know if anybody wanted to try to get in.
Can I ask a question before we go to the public?
You absolutely can, Commissioner Mobilio.
Chief Dorney, what's the total number of full-time officers that we have?
We are budgeted for 41 officers, including myself and the 2 captains. So 38 patrol officers, which would include lieutenants, sergeants, and patrol officers.
Okay, so 38 patrol officers, meaning 38 police officers that are actually kind of go out on calls, or do all 41 go out on calls?
No, there's different structure. There's myself, 2 captains who are outside of the bargaining unit, and then the 38, we have 2 lieutenants, we have 8 sergeants who are supervisors on the street. We have 3 detectives, actually 4 detectives if you include our drug task force officer, 20 patrol officers, community liaison officer, and the SROs that are in our schools. So yeah, we have essentially our platoons consist of 2 supervisors, which are sergeants, and 5 patrol officers. So 7 patrol officers out on the street pretty much any given time, plus the additional personnel that are working.
Okay, so those 7 patrol officers are primarily the officers that are making the arrests. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I've had the chat open. I don't see any specific questions from the public regarding this particular resolution. That being said, do I hear a motion to move forward to extend the conditional offers to candidates number 64855 and 87379?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm not sure who gave that second.
Joe can have that one.
All right, a second from Commissioner Seton. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye. Good luck, Chief Dorney. Looking forward
Thank
to
you
great.
very much.
All right. We're going to move back down into our motions, finish up with those. Next, in front of us, we have a motion for consideration and possible action to proceed with the purchase of 1 new police vehicle. Chief, don't go far.
I will not. Thank you very much. This is just essentially a motion to request permission to proceed with the purchase of 1 new police vehicle. And now just to be, this is not in addition to the fleet. This is, if you recall, we had a crash that occurred on Walbert Avenue that made the media. That vehicle was in fact totaled due to that crash. So this vehicle would essentially be replacing that car that was totaled in that crash. And the funding to do this would be from insurance payments from previous crashes that we had banked essentially between this vehicle and one other vehicle that was crashed last year, that there would be no addition to the capital cost.
Excellent. Thanks, Chief. Not excellent that we had to get money from crashes, but it's so any questions from the board on this particular request for purchase?
I just had a simple question. So your memo states that the equipment that is inside of the crashed vehicle is just going to be moved over to this new one?
That's correct. Yeah, we had that vehicle stripped and all that equipment was brand new from the previous vehicle. Unfortunately, that was one of our brand new cars that we just recently gotten in that was totaled. So all the equipment in there was brand new. Kovach actually stripped everything out of there since they had just put it in a couple months prior, and all that equipment is in good working condition and just fine. So we did not have to purchase any new equipment. It's just simply the equipment going back into that car.
Okay, and just curious, what would it have cost had we not had that? I mean, typically, what does it cost to do all that extra work on a vehicle?
That's a considerable amount. I mean, radios are probably in excess of $10,000. Watch guard system is another about $5,000 to $8,000. License plate readers, you're talking probably close to an extra $25,000 to $30,000 if all that other equipment had been damaged as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Is the chat open, Renee?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the public on this particular purchase? All right, hearing none, do I hear a motion to move forward to proceed with the purchase of our one new police vehicle?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wall. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Chief Dorney.
Thank you.
All right, next this evening for consideration and possible action, we have a motion requesting permission to proceed with advertising to bid variable frequency drive project for the Jacoby Water Station. Mr. Herb Bender, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Township's Public Works Department and Purchasing Department is respectfully requesting permission to advertise to bid the VFD's project for Jacoby Water Station. This will help prolong the life of the pumps and the water lines inside the station. This project is budgeted in the water capital account for $140,000.
Excellent. Thank you, Herb. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this request to advertise for the VFD project for Jacoby Water Station?
This is from the 2020 budget, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just make a side note only because I'm familiar with what Herb is doing here. A VFD project is really great. It certainly adds to the efficiency and cost effectiveness of the use of the pumps. So I'm glad to see we're going out to do this. Great job, Herb.
Do we have this VFD on all of our water stations?
No, we do not currently. We do have them in the CapEx in certain years to start adding them to all the water stations.
So this Jacoby Water Station is going to be the first one to have the VFD?
No, we do have them in some of the water stations, just not all of them yet.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any questions from the public on this request to advertise for bid the VFD project? Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion to move forward to proceed with the advertising to bid?
So moved.
I heard a duplicate there. Was that Commissioner Walk or Kelly?
Both, doesn't matter.
All right, Commissioner Walk made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton. Oops. You can give us,
Thumbs up or mute. You're on there, Joe.
thumbs up.
Okay.
And Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. All right, don't go far there, Herb. The next motion for consideration and possible action is requesting permission to proceed with advertising to bid the Kmart Water Station project. Herb.
Good evening again, Commissioners. South Whitehall Township Public Works Department and Purchasing Department is respectfully requesting permission to advertise to bid the Kmart Water Station project. This will be a complete total rebuild of the building along with all new equipment inside the building. This project is budgeted in the water facilities capital for $600,000.
All right. Any questions or comments from for Herb regarding this motion requesting permission to proceed.
Same question as last time, Herb, sorry. This is budgeted in 2020 as well?
Correct. There's 600,000 budgeted in 2020, and then you will see us come back in 2021 for an additional 200,000 for this project.
And what's that additional 200 for?
For this project, originally, we thought we could get it for around 600,000, but due to the increase in pricing for construction materials and pumps, we had to come back for another 200,000 in next year's budget.
So just budget-wise, how does that work if this bid goes out and comes in for, you know, almost 800,000? Do you do part of it this year and part of it in the new year?
Yeah, as long as we encumber this money, we can come back in January for the other 200,000 right away, and then award everything. So we'll have enough money to be able to do the whole project.
And when you say you're rebuilding the building, is it going to be the same size, or are we making any changes to the actual building?
It's going to actually be a whole new building. The building we currently have is built into a side of a hill, and we do have foundation issues in that building. So we have no choice but to move it up top on the site that we're at now, right next to the tank that is underground up there.
Okay. Thank you.
Just, hey, Herb and Randy, just a quick question out of curiosity. Due to the size of this project, did you guys consider any grant opportunities through the revolving fund or DCED, you know, any of those?
We
H2O grant?
Commissioner. No, this was part of the CapEx plan. No grants were looked into for this.
Just, you know, for the future, there may be some opportunities. They've opened up some of those grants for some larger projects. So just throwing that out there for consideration for the future. Any other questions or comments regarding this particular project? To proceed for advertising from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, hearing none. Do I hear a motion to move forward with permission to proceed for advertising to bid the Kmart Water Station project?
So moved.
A motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Walk. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries.
Commissioner
All right.
Morgan. Commissioner Morgan, I was just notified we had an error on the conditional offer resolution earlier. The wrong candidate number is there, so we need to redo that number. I think the chief has the correct number.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Go ahead.
address that real quick because there was a typo in the emails going back and forth. So I need to, the first number was correct, 64855. The second one, however, needs to be 06336.
Okay, so Attorney Zader, what's the best way to go about this? We have to do a new motion, I would assume. What do we do with the old motion? And
There, now I'm on. I believe a motion to adopt this resolution with the corrected candidate number and specifically noting that it rescinds the prior motion would be adequate.
awesome, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that being said, I would like to make a motion to rescind the prior motion referencing candidate 87379 and make a new motion extending a conditional offer of employment to an entry-level position of patrol officer to candidates number 64855 and candidate number 06336. I made a motion. I made the motion. We need a second.
Second.
Second motion made by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Kelly. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and Commissioner Morgan.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Renee.
you very much. I appreciate that.
No worries. No worries. All right. Last but not least, for consideration for motions this evening is a motion requesting permission to award a bid for the sewer main repairs, manhole rehabilitation, and manhole-to-manhole lining project. Mr. Elias, are you with us this evening?
I am here. Good evening, everyone. As Tori said, the township, the Public Works Department is requesting a bid to be awarded for our sewer main repairs, manhole-to-manhole lining. As it states, 2 bids were received and opened on November 6th for the above project. The bid was advertised twice in a local publication. As everyone can see in the attachment from the bid results, the price difference on most line items between the 2 submitted bids is substantial, and we feel outweighs the difference on the smaller priced items. USG, or Utility Services Group, has performed work for us in the past. Their recent contract expired from 2017. We were really satisfied with their work. They do a great job in the township, and they have for a few years now. The bid price and materials, considering prevailing wages, rates are incorporated. We would respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners award the bid to Utility Services Group for a total not to exceed the budgeted amount for this project of $750,000.
Thank you, Mike. And that was to Utility Services Group, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what. Okay, thank you. All right. Any questions or comments for Mr. Elias on this particular request to award bid?
I just have a general question for this project. What area of town are you targeting for this?
For the manhole to manhole lining, which is, just to be specific, it doesn't include the manholes themselves. It's the pipe that runs between the manholes. There's 2 sections. One is on Dorney Park Road, and it's a few sections of manhole to manhole. It runs, I think it's, Herbie, correct me if I'm wrong, about 1,000 feet of Dorney Park Road. And the other one is down in the Sharesville County Field area off Mach Chunk.
The one on Stony Park Road is roughly 1,500 feet, and that's the 21-inch interceptor line that would be lined manhole to manhole.
Yeah, these are large diameter pipes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, our chat is open. Any questions from the public? All right, not seeing any. Do I hear a motion to move forward to award the bid to Utility Services Group not to exceed $750,000 for the sewer main repairs, manhole rehabilitation, and manhole to manhole lining project?
So moved.
A motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second? I'll make a second. Second from Commissioner Morgan. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, moving on to correspondence and information items. We have our police chief report. Mr. Dorney, Chief Dorney, what do you got for us this evening?
Okay, we'll go over the stats quickly. For the month of October, we had 913 reports. 132 of those were self-initiated reports. Compared to 2019, we had 1,184 for a difference of 271. 14% of those calls this year were 14% were self-initiated. The most common report is EMS calls with 210. UCRs for the month of October, we had 66 compared to 84 last year, so we're down 18. Year to date, we're down 306 crimes, which is a good thing. Arrests for the month of October, we had 27. 11 of those are self-initiated compared to 41 in 2019, so a difference of 14. Self-initiated arrests are about 40%, and the arrest ratio is 40.91%. So we're arresting 40% of our UCRs, essentially. And the officers are out there doing a great job every day, especially again and during this pandemic and crazy times. So I commend them for their efforts.
Chief, I just had a couple questions. I'm sorry, Chief, are you finished? I apologize.
Nope, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Just a couple questions. First of all, I pardon my ignorance, but what is a self-initiated arrest?
It's something that the officer is not called to. So they're out doing some proactive policing, whether they're out, a lot of those are DUIs, things that they find versus responding to target for retail theft. And then all of a sudden they make an arrest because they've got them in custody at the store, things like that.
Got it. Okay. And then my other question is, this may be very difficult to answer, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. How much time would you say that an officer spends from the time that they encounter a suspect until an arrest is made and throughout the process? You know, and I understand it varies probably greatly between every type of crime.
Yeah.
You know, from putting them in handcuffs to reading them and their rights to processing them to doing the paperwork. I mean, do you have a general idea as to how much time that takes an officer?
You know, if you're talking simple retail theft or, you know, something that's not, yeah, in retail theft, they could probably be in and out in about an hour. By the time they could get them processed, run them down to CBC to get fingerprinted and processed and do the paperwork, probably an hour, hour and a half at most.
Okay, and then that obviously wouldn't include any time that they might have to spend at a preliminary hearing or some kind of court time, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's all well after the fact.
Okay. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Chief Dorney? I would like to just add one thing, Chief, you know, to your report. You know, you talked about our, you know, obviously our crime statistics, but I also like to bring some recognition to the officers for the amazing community service that they continue to do. And, you know, today was just just one event that they just really are outstanding. They did the Heroes Fighting Hunger with the Parkland School District and the Parkland Cares Food Pantry. And we had a couple officers out there today and just they really did show their true community spirit and dedication. And we're very grateful for that. We're a very fortunate community. Thank you for all the work you and the team does.
Thank you very much. And can we talk about Steve Brown being the winning member of the team for Team Navy?
I'm surprised he's not like showing a flag somewhere.
Yeah,
but you know, I'll just show this. This is what was all over the place. I'm not sure. There's a little still competition going on. So a great day, a great day for a great cause and lots of canned foods gathered up for the Parkland Cares Food Pantry. Again, thank you to the police department and staff for all your efforts, for sure.
Chief Dorney, before you go, I did have a question. Your most common call always seems to be EMS calls. Can you explain the police role in an EMS call for us?
Yeah, it depends. We do get a lot of EMS calls. So EMS, whenever we get called to assist them. We'll assist them depending on what their needs are, whether we get equipment out of a car. And obviously, if there's a major incident with a cardiac arrest or things like that, our officers have AEDs in all of our cars, and they'll actually provide first aid if they get there before the ambulance or our fire departments will get there. So they do a lot of community service essentially with just some first aid and some things, especially when it comes down to cardiacs.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board for Chief Dorney tonight? Any from the public? All right, Chief, great job. Thank you again.
Thank you.
How about our Tony, our township engineer? Tony, welcome. What do you got for us?
Can't hear you, Tony.
You're either on mute or, but it looks like your phone's on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's that new computer. We can't hear you. No worries, Tony. If you have nothing to report, just put your thumb up. He's shaking his head. He's good. He's good. We'll give it a whirl. We can always come back to you. We'll come back if you get it fixed. All right. All right. I will just make a comment. We have a public notice. Our Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 19th. Mr. Kinney, did you have anything you wanted to add to that this evening?
Not much, Commissioners, but the Planning Commission will consider 4 items tomorrow evening, including 2 minor subdivisions, 1 major plan, and a zoning map amendment.
Awesome. Thank you, George. All
Commissioner-
right.
Commissioner Morgan, under announcements, we also do have a zoning hearing board on Monday. I don't know if you'd like to announce that as well.
Well, I don't have that on the list, but I'll leave that up to George. Did you want to?
That is correct. There is a zoning hearing board meeting. I think there's only 1 item scheduled for that meeting on Monday evening.
And it's at 7 p.m.
Yes.
All right. Good enough. Thank you.
Lori,
Yes.
there was a question in the chat from Teddy, and then Scott did respond to the exact millage rate down there as well in the chat. 2.84975.
Oh, okay. And this is back up to the budget,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So Teddy, just for the record, if you could send us your name and address too, just for the record, so we have that. Teddy had a question on the budget. The current general fund millage will remain at 2.84 and the fire tax at 0.47 mils. Is that correct? And it's
Did answer. 2.84.
Scott did answer.
Yes,
It's
I believe that's Jeff
2.8.
Ward. I believe
Go ahead,
that's Jeff
Scott.
Ward from WFMZ. So he messaged privately as well. Yeah,
Okay, great.
0.47 for the fire fund. Yep, exactly. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Jeff Ward. All right. Very good. Next, under direction and discussion items, we don't have anything on there, but I would like to note, just for the record, because I know it's come up at a variety of meetings, I wanted to note that we are continuing, Commissioner Mobilio, myself, and Renee are continuing to run our boards and commissions, gathering some information to put together a nice package of everything that we have available. Still working on that, working hard. I did send an outline to Renee that we're working on now. And I'd like to note that we went through at least 4 interviews just last week. We'll be scheduling some additional interviews next week. This week was kind of full with budget hearing meetings and various other things going on, but next week we'll continue with our interviews. And currently on volunteer boards and commissions, we still have open positions currently on civil service, planning, zoning, and our green advisory committee. So we continue to do those interviews and provide that the application is online. for anybody to fill out. And if you have questions on that, you can certainly call, and Tracy and Renee are both available to answer any questions you might have. So I just wanted to give a little update on that so everybody knew what was happening.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes,
Commissioner Morgan. Yeah, I have, unless anyone has questions about that, the statement you just gave, I do have a discussion item that I'd like to bring up. So in case anyone has, Mike, it looks like Mike has a question.
Yeah. A question and a comment. So it's actually a nice segue, because I wanted to say something on the same subject. So I have a really simple recommendation that would benefit the township and the citizens. And on account of that, I'd like to make a motion that the South Whitehall Township employment and volunteer opportunities should be added as a standard topic to the BOC meeting agenda. And this would provide opportunity to communicate new employment and volunteer opportunities to a wider group of people than perhaps, is currently the case. Where we have certain names on file, and we often look to people on other, volunteer committees to fill the roles. If we did this, we get more candidates, and people would have more knowledge about how they could fill the township needs. This is something that other township board of commissioners do on a regular basis. So I hope you agree to adopt this very simple recommendation that I think would truly be a win-win benefit for the township and the citizens.
Can I ask a question about that? Just obviously, because Tori and I are working on these committees, what would occur during that agenda item? What would we do at that period during the meeting?
Yeah, what we would do basically, for people who have knowledge about the open positions, for employment and volunteer, we'd have to talk through who exactly that is. It would basically say, for everyone's information, for the BOC, because we're not always aware of all the open positions, and for the public, these are the open positions. So please be advised. I mean, you could elaborate a little bit and say, well, there's an opening on a planning commission, and in case you don't know, the purpose of the planning commission is such and such. But it's really just to get the information out there that there's an opening, and then almost by word of mouth. I mean, the BOC could say, hey, there's an opening on a planning commission, to go out into the community and advise people. And anyone who's attending the meeting or watches the video, they would know, and then they could go spread the word. It just would enhance communication more than is currently the case, and it just create a win-win for the township and the people.
Are you talking about providing a list of the openings?
I'm just.
I mean, we're not going to do anything about it.
I'm not being real prescriptive about it tonight. I mean, I can give you an example. Like recently, end of September, another neighboring township made it a point in their board of commissioner meeting to say, I just want to advise that we have an opening on the zoning hearing board. And then they went to explain, that the zoning hearing board is a quasi-legal body. Here's what their role and responsibility is. It's an extremely important board and a very important role for the township. We certainly need to have qualified people with the right background to participate. Maybe a few words around that. And just want to get the word out in case you personally think you have the qualifications, or if you know anyone else who might be interested, please spread the word. That's the type of thing I'm talking about with trying to be overly prescriptive about it.
So
that's
Commissioner
like what Tori just did, right? Like what Tori just did. She said we have openings on planning, and whatever else. Is that what you're saying?
I think what Tori did tonight is step in the right direction. Maybe a little elaboration. I mean, if I look back in time, just if I look back over the last few months, we had an opening. We had the opening on the Planning Commission, and at 2 or 3 Board of Commissioner meetings, we talked about posting job openings and how should we handle job openings. And during the course of those meetings, it just never came up that, hey, there's an opening on the Planning Commission. So all I'm saying is, that's looking at it in hindsight. And I'm just saying, looking at it going forward, let's just make it a standard agenda item that will be communicating this information. It's really a simple idea.
It is a simple idea, Commissioner Walk, and I think what we are doing right now is, like we had promised, Matt and I and Renee are going through. Let us go through the review process. We're looking at a few different ways to go about, and with our new website and communications, and certainly, discussions when positions, volunteer positions come open, bringing them up at board meetings. I don't know if this is worthy of a motion or needed as a motion. Certainly, we're all moving in the right direction. And I wish you would just give us the chance to get the information put together, and we've relayed the information pretty much at every single meeting I think we've been at so far. If everybody knows, if they've sat on one of these meetings, that there are volunteer boards and commissions, and if you want to fill out an application, you can fill out an application and get involved. So it's not like the information is not getting out there. What I don't want to see us do is turn a meeting into another 3-hour-long meeting to go through a dissertation on every volunteer board and commission, every position that's open, explaining each and every position, because all of that information is available on the website. And if somebody has a specific question, certainly available for discussion through Tracy or Renee or one of the executive staff. So, although I agree with you, we want to get all the information out there. I think we are doing that. We're well on our way. I just think we need to be cognizant of the time spent and what kind of information we're going to put out there as far as length and time. That's what I just want to mention. So, I brought the topic up because I just wanted to give you some detail on where we stood on this review process. I wanted to also mention the current vacant positions and where they were. Certainly, if anybody is interested, they can put in an application, and as positions come open, we would contact them directly. We've said that, and hoping we can continue to move in a forward direction on this instead of spending hours and hours on it.
I'd just like to add.
Just a quick comment. I think your impression of what I'm recommending, it's way more complex, and I'm not talking about hours and hours. I'm talking take 2 minutes and give an update. Hey, there's an open position, and I've truly appreciate you said previously about the work that you and Commissioner Mobilio are doing. I think it's fantastic. I look forward to the end result. What I was trying to do here was extract one little element out of everything you're doing. You're doing a wholesale update on all the boards and commissions, and we understand that. I was just trying to extract one really simple little thing called, hey, everybody, there's a new opening on this committee. Just want to let you know. I don't know what's wrong with that. I just did that.
Mike, I just did that. So I don't understand, why do we need to make a motion?
What I'm saying is let's do it at every meeting. Let's do it at every meeting.
Well, as the positions become available and the information becomes available, we will report out on them for certain. But what I don't want to get into is us making motions for every little action that we have to take. That seems a little overkill and ridiculous. We did just what you said, so I'm not really sure why we have to take it to another level.
I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it, Commissioner Morgan. When I put something forward, it's very sincere. It's serious. I express it for the benefit of the township and the people, and I would appreciate it if you didn't ridicule it by saying my idea is ridiculous. This is the second meeting in a row that you've done that, and I would kindly request you to refrain from using that word.
I didn't say you were ridiculous. I said that it would be ridiculous to spend more time on a topic that we've already addressed. You certainly aren't ridiculous, and nothing you said is ridiculous.
Enough.
We can move on.
May I add a comment? As you were speaking about this topic, I recalled seeing this very item on another township's website, because I do like to follow what local townships do around us, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years just to learn about local government. And I just pulled up Lower Macungie Township, and under communication, they have a letter of resignation from one of their boards as one item, and second item, a statement of interest on another board. I don't know if that's what, Mike, you're asking for, but certainly to have a place on our agenda that is just for an announcement per se, where we don't need to expect our citizens to listen to. Now we're an hour and 25 minutes into our meeting. If they want to listen to it on an audio, if it's printed on our agenda and they quick go to the website and look at it, you know, to have another avenue to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Wilk, I believe you said volunteer boards as well as openings for employment, to put opportunities out for the public where it's, again, easy to reach and access. I don't know how Lower Macungie, how long it takes them to go through that particular line item. But as I said, they do have it under communication, a letter of resignation, and a statement of interest. So just, you know, I think it's a good idea. I would second Commissioner Wilk's motion to, you know, maybe even add that as just a announcement section under our agenda.
Actually, can
I please get a word in, guys? Please, can I say one thing? One thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Mike, I think it's a good idea and I support it. However, my only request is that is to give Tori and I a little bit of breathing room on what we're working on. We have a lot of openings right now. We're potentially looking to merge some boards. For instance, there's two environmental boards. There's an environmental board I don't think has done anything or met at all, and then we have the GAC. I will promise you my vote in favor of your motion if you be willing to table the motion until Tori and I can finish doing what we're doing with the meetings, with the committees, which I believe will be done within the next couple months. We would be probably done by now already if it wasn't for all the budget workshops. But you have my support, but you'll have my vote if you wouldn't mind tabling this until Tori and I can put together the final product, with the understanding that, you know, at these meetings we can informally do exactly what Commissioner Morgan did up until the time that we get everything all prepared.
I like that. Thank you, Matt. But Commissioner Walk, I have an idea. And I think this will encompass what you want to accomplish. And, you know, first of all, you know, try and explain. I didn't, again, mean you were ridiculous. I just don't want to get into a ridiculous amount of time on a topic, which we already are doing. But anyways, so my thought is, maybe what we should do, because this goes beyond just, you know, the interview committee or on one particular board. We've had multiple discussions on different volunteer boards and commissions, and maybe something for consideration is on the agenda as a standing item. And I'm not exactly sure how to word it yet, but we have something on there for old business or new business. It would probably be new business, or I'm not sure. Volunteer board and commission updates, meaning if like for instance, I'm going to do it tonight. If I attended, I'm a member on the, a support member on GAC. And when I go to a GAC meeting, I report out to the board on what happened. And I'm also a support member on Volunteer Fire. If Volunteer Fire meets, I report out to the board, let you know what the topics that were discussed. So maybe we have a section that we can have a report out on those things. And within those topics, that would be where the different vacancies may come up. It's just a thought, because then that would be all encompassing of information that's happening outside of a regular board meeting. So maybe we could kind of figure something out that way, because we kind of, you know, get a lot more information out there, not just the openings on boards and commissions, but also the topics that are discussed during certain volunteer board and commission meetings. Just a thought.
All right.
Well,
So
I'm sorry, I just want to add this. That lines up directly. I still have Lower Mac's agenda in front of me. They actually have a section called committee reports, where they have their 5 committees that it looks like they just do a quick little report of what their, you know, what their last meeting was. So that's certainly, but again, you know, to post that type of information, I think as a standard practice, certainly is something that would be a benefit to the township and the community at large.
okay.
So
I'm pleased with what Commissioner Mobilio said. You know, I appreciate the work in progress. And I'm pleased with what Commissioner Morgan said. I introduced the subject. I'm happy to hear some conversation around moving in the direction that I recommended.
absolutely.
So what are we doing with the motion? I think we have to do something with it, right?
Someone get it,
Mike,
give advice what to do with it. Well,
Do you want to? I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead,
Go
Matt.
ahead.
No, you
I
go
was just saying,
ahead.
do you want a roll call vote on your motion, or are you willing to let me make a motion to table your motion until we can finish our committee reports?
I'm willing to have you table the motion.
Commissioner Morgan, I'd make a motion to table Commissioner Walk's motion at least until we finish our committee reports, without prejudice for him to raise again if he so chooses.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Attorney Zader, I think all we need to do is, all Commissioner Walk needs to do is pull back his motion off the floor.
That certainly would
I'm not-
accomplish the thing.
Yeah.
And may I add one comment, Commissioner Morgan, having attended board meetings for a couple of years now, I know we used to, on our agenda, have reports from Public Works, and the CD department would have, they were on our agenda, and somehow I see that those aren't on our agenda and haven't been for this entire year. Is there a reason why we moved away from having a quick blurb and update from the different departments, so that the board and the public are aware of what each is doing from one month to the next? I think they used to report on the second meeting of each month.
I'll defer to Renee, but I think we were still doing, we might not have done it in the last meeting or two. Renee, I'll defer to you on that one. I think we were going to once a month or something like that.
One time virtual, we stopped, and as needed project updates, they're given to the more, you know, important projects or the motions that are discussed or what they're working on. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear all of that, Renee. Would you repeat that?
I said that we had done them monthly until we went virtual, and the again, if a project is specific, somebody will report out on it. Otherwise, we have not been. We can anticipate starting them again in 2021.
Meaning when we go back to in-person meetings, or just due to the timing of the township?
The timing of the township. We'll look to them in January of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
I have a procedural question or request. Since I made the motion and withdrew the motion, could the motion please be recorded in the minutes as having been made and withdrawn?
But there was no motion. It's not an actionable item.
Can we just agree to put it in the minutes so we can move on?
Yep, absolutely. Just put it in the minutes and let's move on.
Okay, can I bring up my discussion item now, please?
Absolutely.
All right. I'll try to make this brief. I think everyone's well aware that every day Pennsylvania is setting new records for new COVID infections. Today was another new records, over 6,000. We had 100 Pennsylvanians die yesterday of COVID. A lot of us, I'm sure a lot of us can see the handwriting on the wall as far as business goes. That is Allegheny County tonight, in fact, announced a stay-at-home order. Citizens are being told not to leave their homes except for to get groceries and medicine. Philly County has already enacted a number of measures. Statewide, the Commonwealth has enacted a number of measures to help prevent the spread. Pennsylvania is still at 8% unemployment. People are still reeling. The economy is still reeling. I know that my business personally has not recovered fully yet to pre-COVID levels. And the way things are going, especially without any action from the federal government as far as stimulus, the lack of further PPP funds, the lack of further economic grants of that sort, I have no doubt that many of our Southwell Township businesses are struggling. The City of Allentown, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and other Lehigh County economic development groups, were offering grants all throughout this year to businesses. So what I'd like to propose tonight is, since we were able to release that $150,000 that was set aside initially for the Weirs Dam fund, and the fact that we did not have to use it because our staff did an excellent job of managing the budget this year, we actually have carryover funds. I'd like to propose the creation of a COVID relief fund to be made available to Southwell Township businesses and to fund that fund with the $150,000 that had initially been set aside but has now been released. I understand there will be details that will need to be gone through as far as how much each business might be eligible for, what those eligibility requirements are, when the fund will become available to businesses, and I'd be willing to volunteer to serve on any kind of committee that might look into the details of that or be responsible for working that out. But I think it'll be important for us to show Southwell Township businesses that if the federal government's not going to act and our state government's not going to act, and because we've been such good stewards with their tax dollars, that we're in a position to potentially help them. So I'm certainly open to any suggestions or discussion that anyone would like to engage in, but I would like to have a vote on the creation of that fund and the funding of that fund, with the further details to come later.
Wow, Commissioner Mobilio, that's a very interesting concept. And I mean, it's the first I'm hearing of it, and obviously I would assume it's the first, maybe some of the other commissioners are hearing of it. And I think, I think it sounds great to explore, but I think that's exactly what we should do first is explore in regards to, there's a lot of logistics that go with it. I think the concept is great, but how would you divvy up the funds? What would this mean for the Weirs Dam particular project if we ended up having to, what that does? There's a lot of different things to consider. So would you be willing to, before making a motion to set the fund up, to first just explore the opportunity and allow staff and us as the rest of the commissioners to at least get a better handle and wrap our arms around all the logistics that might go into it? Is that something you would consider to keep?
Let me just address the two issues that you raised. Yeah, the two issues that you raised. First of all, with regard to who would qualify for the fund and who would get what amount of money. Obviously, those are logistical concerns that have to be addressed. That wouldn't affect the ability of the township to create the fund or to fund the fund. That would be details to be hammered out later. What I'm simply looking for is money to be set aside for the fund so that we can figure out what the details of who would get what money would be. As far as the Weirs Dam issue, as we all know, we talked about at length at several meetings, that $150,000 was not part of the referendum. That money was set aside by a previous board In case the Weirs Dam budget that was approved by referendum was insufficient to satisfy whatever needed to be done at that particular project. So that was the whole impetus for moving that money or releasing that money, was that it was not required per the referendum, and that it was not being used, and we should be able to use it for if we needed it for instance, budget constraints due to COVID. But thankfully, we don't have those. Those don't exist. So we have the opportunity to put that money to use now to help our residents and business owners. So I certainly be more than willing and happy to have further discussions about what to do, how to divvy out the money or dole out the money, and who would qualify for it. But I would like to at least establish the fund, fund the fund without restriction to have that money be pulled back out of the fund if necessary. But I would just like to see that it gets created, gets funded, and then we can go from there as far as the details of who gets what and when.
I think part of it, Commissioner Mobilio, has to do with who gets it, how much they get it, why they get it, and is $150,000 an amount that would do any good to anybody if you spread it over 200 people or 300 people? Is it really going to help them? So
well, absolutely.
I think that the mechanics of it is very, very important. It's a good idea, but the mechanics of it is very important. I cannot support it the way you have presented it today.
Well, the thing is, Joe, that I agree with you that 150,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but you also have to understand that depending on how we set up our parameters for who would qualify. For instance, Dorney Park's not going to qualify for a grant. They're unlikely to be in that sort of financial category. I'm talking about the little mom and pop stores, the places that are struggling. A lot of our small businesses that have single owner, one employee, those sorts of places. Cap what you could have as yearly revenue in order to qualify for it. Have to show, like for instance, when I applied for my PPP loan, which I was granted, I had to show what my income was for the last 12 months to show how when COVID hit, it took a dramatic turn downward. So of course there are a lot of logistics and 150,000 may only help 30 residents. Okay, let's say it helps 30 residents. Okay, but that's $5,000 for each resident business owner that they didn't have, that most likely is going to be pumped back into the South Wales Township economy, whether it's to pay for lease payments or to keep workers on staff. So it's not money that's just going down the drain. It may not help everyone that might qualify for it, but that's how a lot of these economic grants are. There's simply a certain amount of money, and the money's gone, it's gone, and you just have to determine who's the most needy for that money.
I think a lot of those subsidies are available to those business owners through the state and feds. I'm not sure that, if we had a substantial amount of money, it would have been a different story, but I think that money that was allocated to the Weirs Dam and was put aside in case of emergency should stay just as bad as in case of emergency. And if the emergency does not come in, it should go back right to the Weirs Dam.
Well, I'd argue that we're in a state of right now.
I wanted to comment on that as well. I do concur with I hate to see Weirs Dam money being used again to move around. That money, prior boards, I think, were using some future planning we're potentially, because of the vote, if the dam needs repairs, the township will need to pay, I believe, up to $600,000 or $650,000. I believe their intent was to put a little bit away, sort of in a savings account. So if we do need to spend that money on the dam repair, it's not going to be a $600,000 deduction from our operating budget. I think the idea has merit. I agree with Joe's comment, though, to wonder if there's anything at the state level or county level to help businesses at this point. I know there has been quite a bit of funding and loans been made available to business to this point. I do want to make one.
There aren't any more.
I don't know if
There's
there
no
are
more
not,
money, Diane.
but as these shutdowns are apparently maybe coming back, it's very possible that the state will or federal government will find a way to bring new round of grants to help people. But I wanted to just take a side avenue here because during our budget workshops, South Whitehall Township did receive a COVID-related grant from Lehigh County for $326,000. If there's a way that we can take some of that money and establish a fund, I certainly do have the very same questions as Commissioner Seton had. How do we determine which business qualifies, and how do we do that fairly? That creates a whole set of problems on its own. But are there other places in our budget besides rating the Wares Dam money that has been set aside? That is not something that I'm in favor of touching at this point.
Diane, I'll just add that money, the COVID money that was given to us by the county, ultimately from the state, that has to go directly to the township. We can't then divvy that up and give it to out to the public or businesses. And Renee, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That money's been given to us based solely on expenses that were incurred or losses that were incurred for the township as a result. For the township operations. So I don't believe that is an option. I feel pretty confident in that statement. Renee, I see.
Is that something we can dig into? Because I did check with a couple other townships today, and one of them that I know actually did give some money to their local ambulance company and was looking to potentially do small business grants. So maybe we could check back with Lehigh County to see what stipulations specifically are on that money and our ability to potentially use it in that manner.
Well, with that being said, and to the extent that anyone else agrees with the concept of the creation of the fund, I'd like to at least have a vote on the creation of the fund, and then we can have further discussions about how that fund might be funded. But again, I think the idea that we need to hammer out every single detail and logistic of who's getting what and for how much and all that before we even approve the creation of the fund will be putting the cart before the horse. Because if we can't agree on putting money into the account, doing all the legwork would be a waste of time. So I would like to. I'm going to make the motion, and I'd appreciate obviously support for this. If it's not there, it's not there. But I think it's important everyone go on record as to whether they support the creation of the fund or not. And I will leave aside the idea of how to fund the fund for another day. So I'd like to make the motion that the township create a COVID relief fund that will be made available to businesses in South Whitehall Township, and for us to determine the amount of how much that fund will contain and where the sources of that fund will come from.
Commissioner Mobilio, I will comment. I can't support that at this point. The concept of it is certainly interesting, but again, how that would be done, who would be in charge of it, how would we as a township, I think there could be possibly legal questions. And I think also we certainly should be asking if the state or federal government has any plans on the horizon to open up other grant opportunities as well. I think that this is something that maybe could be tabled until we have certainly more information, having just heard about it tonight.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, because I've applied for every federal and state program that is available. The federal government has been planning a second stimulus package, have been negotiating it since the summer. The entire package has stalled. There was comments from Congress that there will be no further negotiations until after the election. The election has occurred. There has been no further negotiations. There's nothing imminent from the federal government. The state government has no more money to provide other than some potential small business loans, but because of the destruction of many small businesses' credit, and they're simply not eligible for many of the SBA loans that otherwise would have been available. So I appreciate your concerns, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, not just from what I've been told or what I read, that there is little to no money left for struggling small businesses at this time, and doesn't appear to be in the near future. So I'm not willing to take it. I think it's important that it get a vote regardless of how that goes.
So Commissioner Mobilio, can I just add something in here? I absolutely, I'm very interested in the concept, but and I don't want to speak for the full board, but I think you've tweaked everybody's interest, and in hopes to try and get some momentum, because I like your concept. Instead of making a motion to develop the fund, because we don't know what we're developing yet, my suggestion to you, it's your motion, so I can't make you change it, but my suggestion, and I certainly would buy into this, is to have our staff and legal, investigate how this fund would work, so that, we know logistically how it can happen, and then, move forward from there. Because I do believe this deserves some research and some further discussion and review and investigation, because I do like the concept, but I think it would be much easier to digest if we had a little bit more information based on the questions that Commissioner Stetton has, and Commissioner Walk and Commissioner Kelly. So I would support investigating it to see the feasibility and the legal aspects of it, assuming we can meet all those things. I'm all for it, and determining where the funds would come from, absolutely. But I would suggest doing it as an investigative effort at this point, and moving forward from there. That would be my suggestion. You would have my support on that.
Yeah, my thoughts are very much the same as Commissioner Morgan. So first of all, thank you for putting the recommendation forward. It's I can't think of the right word. Although we're a municipality, it's very philanthropic to put this idea forward. So and it's also very generous. I like the concept. I'll say similar words to Commissioner Morgan, maybe just paraphrasing it. So I think you put the concept forward. I think, even though this has been a fairly short discussion, I think we have a good idea of the concept. Commissioner Morgan, said, let's look at the feasibility, at least a little further. And I would say this, and looking at the feasibility, what would, and I'm not going long, a short list of what are the necessary policies, or, policy bullet points, and what are the necessary operational bullet points that need to be addressed. So I think if some work was done around that, and on one side of a sheet of paper, if you working with staff could come back and say, okay, here's the concept, here's the key policy points, here's the key operational points that are required to make this happen, I would gladly support it. I actually think that's the most, well, it's hard to say. What I just said is important. The funding's important. I think if this was in place, we'd gladly approve the funding. The policies would indicate the level of funding, would answer some of Commissioner Stetton's questions around that. So yeah, you have my support. Those are my thoughts. They're very similar to Commissioner Morgan's.
My only concern is, and I appreciate it, and I know this is all new this idea is new to everyone. My only concern is that, we have a lot on our plates right now, and I know adding something to our plates is I'm not helping the situation, certainly. But my concern is that, given the state of the economy now, given the state of the need now, the emergency that we're in, by kind of taking no action other than to say, well, we'll look into it, there's really no sense of urgency to do anything. It's really just everyone will move at their own pace. But if we agree to the establishment of the fund, or even if we just agreed to, for instance, we agree that it's worthy of further investigation, and we agree that In theory, it's something that we would approve of if we can all agree on the policy aspects of it. But I'd just like to see something where we can all come together and say, this is a good idea. If you agree. If you don't agree, that's that. But this is a good idea, and we're gonna use our best efforts to figure out the details of it going forward. That's really what I'd like to see come out of this tonight.
I think, Commissioner Mobilia, I think that's what you heard from pretty much all the commissioners. Everybody thinks it's a good idea. It's a grand idea. The question is, one, how much effect will it have to the businesses that we're going to help? Can we afford to do that? Two, we have so many details that we need to iron out. So to go ahead and make a motion on it is, I don't think we're ready for it, or at least I'm not. But the idea itself is grand. It's great. There's no question about that. Everybody wants to help if we can.
And I'd like to add, just for the benefit of the public listening, we just finished budget workshops, 4 of them, and just last night we reviewed our contributions. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but South Whitehall does contribute to senior groups here, Meals on Wheels, the treatment trends, something to help battered women. I mean, it's not directly tied to Commissioner Mobilio's statement, but I just want the public to know that South Whitehall is a good neighbor to our residents, and we do try to help where we can. I do agree with Commissioner Seton. This is something that needs further investigation, legal questions, and as far as where does it get funded and what businesses can we realistically help. I feel like we need a lot more information before it would be anything I could vote for.
So, Commissioner Mobilio, I think, again, I love the concept. I mean, I'm all for helping the businesses and residents for that matter as much as we possibly can. I think it sounds to me from the comments from the board, you would have full support, to move forward with investigating this concept. And I think everybody here wouldn't say that if they were just going to drag their feet. Everybody knows that this is in front of us now. So I don't think the intent is to say, oh yeah, we like the concept and then do nothing about it. I think if we all sit here and agree that this is a great concept, makes sense, let's find out, sooner than later from our staff and legal, is this feasible? Can we do this? What are the cost impacts? All those different questions. We should, fairly quickly be able to have an answer on what we can and cannot do. So,
let me ask you this then. This will be my last proposal on this topic. How would the board feel about the creation of a investigatory committee? Okay, 2 board members of which I would volunteer, and if someone else wants to volunteer, great. To work with staff to look into the issues that we all discussed tonight. That way, it puts pen to paper, it creates momentum for something to happen, but it does not bind the township to do necessarily anything. Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
I think that's a great idea. I think that would give it the momentum. You'd have a group, a committee of 2 commissioners. Obviously, you're interested to be one of them, and then work with staff and legal, on the feasibility of it, and then can come back with a recommendation to the full board. I think that's a great idea. I personally like that. That makes sense.
I don't know that we need a committee. I mean, we've discussed that we need some legal opinion, and it sounds like, I know I certainly have asked Renee on the county level for that grant. I personally have already reached out to neighboring townships. Commissioner Mobile, I've actually been already looking into this myself, just out of curiosity. So, we certainly can reconvene at our next meeting and just bring back what initial information we have, since this is the first time we've heard of this tonight, and see where this goes, if it's even worth having a committee and digging in much deeper than a surface level once we determine at least the basis for, is this something that we actually can move forward with. That's just my opinion.
So Matt, why not a motion just to move forward to direct staff and legal to look into this and gather the information so that we can further have discussion with it.
Well, I I'm still prefer to make the motion to organize a committee because I want to be involved in it. I think it's important, and I think having two commissioners help drive it. And I mean, staff is more than capable to do this themselves, but I would like to be able to work with them side by side on this project. So I will make a
Matt.
motion to, go ahead.
Matt, it's Renee. I was just going to say we're more than happy to work with you to look into the stuff and be able to report back at the next meeting.
Okay.
But
And
you
if,
can,
look, if no one else wants to be a part of that committee, no one has to volunteer. So I will make a motion to create a investigatory committee to look into the establishment of a COVID relief fund for the benefit of South Whitehall Township businesses. And that's it.
I'll second that motion. So we would need a,
I love the concept, Commissioner Mobilio. I love the concept. I think it's a great concept. Very divided. I think the staff can supply us with a lot of the information that we need in order to move forward with it. I will have to vote no.
My comment is, without repeating myself, I support the concept. I agree with the direction you'd like to go. If your motion said you want to do investigative work with staff, I'm okay with that. It's the word committee that's throwing me off a little bit. I just think it's premature for like a committee. I mean, take the next 2 to 4 weeks, do investigative work with staff, and come back and report where things are. I think that's fine.
I think I don't want to speak for Matt, Commissioner Walk, but I think his reference to committee is just to have a commissioner involvement, and we like to have a reference to that. And am I right, Matt? You want to make it known that you're going to work with them, and if anybody else was interested, you're opening that up, and that's why you reference committee. So if it's only Matt and the board is fine with that, I mean, I'm personally fine with that, and staff, and he's going to report back to us, then it would just be a one-man committee. It'd be him. It would just be him and staff.
Well, there's no need for,
I wouldn't get too hung up on the word committee.
Yeah, I mean, as our township manager just stated, again, this is the first that we've heard of it. There's a lot of questions from the board. I would certainly be in favor of hearing some further information from a legal and financial standpoint before we invest any other great amount of time in it. We just don't have enough information to make intelligent decisions today.
Well, one thing we need to figure out here is one thing that is important to figure out, and that is that I've reached out to Joe Zader, and Joe, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, but I've asked him questions about issues that I want to bring before the board, and the response has been, well, unless the whole board agrees for me to do something, I can't do it. So how do we get that legal information? How do we get the stuff that you need if we can't even agree to move forward with the idea? I don't understand what the problem with calling it a committee is. If you want to call it a one-man show plus staff, then we can call it that. If you want to call it a tap dance routine on the corner of Walbert and Cedar Crest, we'll call it that. Well, does it matter? I mean, I just want to do something to get the ball rolling so that we can get an approval from the board so that I can work with staff to look into this. I mean, however you want to call it whatever you want, and I'll revise the motion, but I want to make sure that I have approval from the board so that I don't get stonewalled again going through legal where it's like, well, they didn't all agree, so I can't look at anything.
Well, I think we could certainly have Renee as township manager. I think she already spoke about this, that she'd be happy to help with staff to get some preliminary information for us as a board. I don't want to speak for the township manager, but I believe that's what I heard her say earlier. And I think the consensus of the board seems to be that we all need more information and bring this back at our next meeting, which is just 2 weeks away. Nobody's trying to stonewall anything. This is the very first any of us have heard of this. And we're just getting over dealing with our budget as it is. So it's a lot to take in, something I think we all need to think about and do our own research on over the next couple of weeks and discuss as a group again at our next meeting. That's sort of how
I think, Diane, what we need though, do need this, is we need approval either through a motion so that we can agree that staff will look into it. So I think.
Can you just wait for 1 second?
I think we just said that we would table this and ask the staff to get more information for us.
Mike, what do you need the parameters of this to look like for you to support it tonight?
So I'm sort of going to repeat what I said before. Let's just agree. I mean, we're doing what we said we would do, right, in accordance with a recently enacted ordinance. In order to go to staff and generate some work on some initiative, the board is supposed to review and discuss it and vote upon it. So as far as doing work on this concept to develop it a little bit further and address some feasibility questions, for you to work with staff to do investigative work or feasibility work, I agree with that. And that.
Okay, so if I make a motion for the board to approve me to work with staff to do investigative work on the COVID relief fund issue, that's something that you would vote for tonight?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I would too.
I will make the motion. I will withdraw my prior motion about creating committee, and I will. Yes.
Matt, if I may, I will also gladly help. Whatever the board wants, I will help out with.
Great, thank you very much. So I will withdraw my prior motion about creating committee, and I will offer a new motion to request that the board give me permission to work with staff in an investigatory capacity to look into the feasibility of the creation of a COVID-19 relief fund.
I'll second that, but make it include legal. It has to include legal.
Right, and I would say, you know, I mean, are we going to say very preliminary? We're not going to get knee deep in this. I think this is just a first look to see what is available, what our options are, what businesses could we realistically help, and where would the funding come from? I mean, it would be a cursory review, not a in-depth legal review, more of a guidance at this point. Is that correct?
Who's that directed to?
The board.
Whatever legal advice that we need to get, I can't say how in depth it would need to be, Diane. But I mean, I think at this point, I'm in agreement. We have a motion and a second on the floor to move forward to do some investigative work to determine the feasibility. It is a feasibility, so it is pretty, you know, surface level from a staff and legal standpoint, and come back hopefully by our next meeting with some information. So I think we all got it. So I do think we need to vote on this one.
And just to follow up, when I was speaking about legal, I meant, you know, not getting into too many billable hours and ordinances drawn and that sort of thing, just understanding of the concept and something that all of us can have a brief understanding of what this would mean for us as a township.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when you draw up an ordinance, you're just going to get legal advice. Is it even feasible? That's what we're looking at.
I just want to
yeah, I like this bit of discussion. So I think in terms of deliverables, could we just clarify what is the deliverable? I said before, on a single side of a sheet of paper, is the deliverable like some feasibility assessment that Matt and the staff is going to produce, including legal? I mean,
what do you want, Mike? Whatever you want. You tell us what you would like to see the result of this be, and that's what we'll do.
I would say come back with feasibility to build out the concept that addresses the legal and the financial and operational issues, and come back to present the results of that feasibility work from your standpoint, I'm sure, using it as a platform to move forward.
You got it. That's what we're gonna do.
Okay, you have a motion and a second on the floor. Can I have a vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Matt. I forgot totally where we're at. Okay, so that was direction and discussion items. We have nothing else under those. We'll move right into our old business for this evening. Renee, do you have any updates on Ware's Dam? We're still waiting on the permit, I understand.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
We have a workshop meeting planned here in the near future for that as well. Then I guess we'll move right into the campus renovation project. We have Mr. Tony Ganguza with us this evening to give us an update. Renee, did you want to give anything as an intro or hand it right over to Tony?
I will just say that Tony Ganguza is with Boyle Construction. Boyle Construction was engaged to be the construction manager for the renovation of the township building. So I am going to turn it over to Tony to give the overview.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you for everybody for having me tonight. Overall, I think the project is going extremely well. We're ahead of schedule. As of right now, we've broken the project up into various phases, I'll call it. The administrative side or the main level, public works renovation, the police department, the lower level addition, and the upper level addition. So as of right now, these are relatively certain dates at this point. Because most of what, the weather's out of the way at this point. So it looks like the administrative part of the building will be completed on or about December 22nd. The police department will be on or about December 15th. Public Works, December 9th. The lower level addition, December 15th, which is basically the addition onto the police department. And the upper level addition will be completed around January 8th. Now, in comparison to those dates, just for those that want to compare what our contract says with our prime contractors, the original contract date for admin, police, and public works was December 31st. And the original contract date for the addition was March 1st. So we're ahead of those dates. And when you factor in the delay that we had with COVID, which was a 27-day calendar delay, which is, anywhere between 5 and 6 weeks, we're way ahead of schedule. Now, in terms of the budget, there's the total contract value, as you all know, is just over $8.3 million. And within that contract, we had just over $500,000 in allowance money built into that 8.3 million. So to date, and we're just about out of the woods. So to date, our allowance money, we still have just over $100,000 remaining of the 500,000. So if we were to close the books today, the township would get $100,000 credit toward the $8.3 million project. So the project would come in at $8.2 million. That's just a brief overview as to schedule and as to budget. And again, I would just tell you that we've been very, very fortunate not to have any COVID-19 cases throughout the entire project, which started on February 1st. And got halted, as you all know, I think it was March 26th. And then we resumed back on the project. It was May 4th, but our ramp up time in getting back to the project after May 4th probably took us about 4 weeks or so to get contractors in full force back to the site. So we really didn't start back up probably until early June. The site construction work is, as you see, I'm sure by driving by or stopping by, is well on its way. We hope to be paving toward the end of next week, with all the site work being wrapped up by the middle of December. And I understand from communicating and talking to Renee that the township's anticipating moving in toward the end of January, early February, which works very well with our schedule right now. So unless there's questions, I really have nothing further to add.
I have a few questions, Tony. What is the current expenditure?
To date?
Yes.
To date, the primes have invoiced the township $5.6 million. 5603,683 to be exact.
Okay, so I always make this point. The expenditures are at 67% and the reserve utilization is at 80%. One likes to see it, equal or in the opposite direction.
I'm not following you, Mike. What are you saying?
Well, if you look, your rate of expenditure you're at 67% right now. So you would like to see your reserve utilization like at 67% or lower, but it's at 80%. We discussed this point with Steve Carr earlier. He said he was comfortable with the fact that the reserve percent exceeded the expenditure percent. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm really not I'm not following it.
Tony, I think what Mike is saying is that the allowance that we have left is only 80%.
Okay. You're referring to referring to the allowance. Okay. Well, the allowance, you have to remember, Mike, in construction, the biggest part of an allowance is mostly used when you're getting out of the ground. That's when you have a lot of unknowns. So once you get out of the ground, like in this case, there were unsuitable soils. There was excessive material that was unusable. There were sanitary lines that we ended up taking up, all of the sanitary lines, all of the ductwork, some of which had asbestos in it. So there was a lot of unknowns in the beginning part of the project. So it's not uncommon at all to have the majority of allowance money used up in the first 50% of the project. It's just not uncommon. It's very common to have toward the end of the project, 20% left, and that 20% possibly being even unused, like might be the case here. We may never use that other $100,000 because again, once you get out of the ground and once you get through the unknowns, the allowance money then becomes less needed.
Okay, I understand that. So I thank you. What's the current forecast? Is it still the 8.3 contract value?
That's correct. Yes, there's no reason for me to believe at this point in the project, which with us closing it down in the next 30 to 45 days, that we will go through beyond the $100,000. The unknowns are known at this time.
Okay. This is really a curiosity question, and maybe you only want to talk about, the primary contract out of the several. What's the number of change orders? I mean, on a municipal project like this, are we in single digits or are there a lot of them?
No, there's not a lot of them. Again, most of them have been utilized through the allowance. So the only change orders to date total less than $4,000 above the allowance money. Now, again, you have to remember the allowance money is per prime. So we could have a prime like we do now in Dual Temp, who's the mechanical contractor, where we've spent the $50,000 allowance, and we're actually over that by $20,000 with them. But there's other primes, such as the plumbing contract with Myco, where we haven't spent $20,000 of the allowance left over. So it really depends on the prime. It depends on the construction. It depends on, again, what did we have to do extra for mechanical that we didn't have to do for plumbing or electrical. So a lot of it's dependent on the actual construction itself.
Okay. And last question, you've noted you're past all the underground risks. So from this point on, what is the majority risk? Is it any single item or?
Yeah, it's sometimes might get selective that, to use a simple example, number of outlets, do we want a couple extra here? Do we want a different light fixture? Do we want, most of the stuff, and Renee's been excellent with that. I mean, we stuck to the plan. We haven't added much extra, but a lot of it's selective. You stumble across something that may not have been included that you now want included. So I think a lot of, going from here on in, it's a selective use of the allowance money more than it is a need to use it because an unknowns come up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board for Tony?
This
Any
might
from the
just,
public?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, just a general question. Tony stated the contract value was the 8.3 million. Our bank loan is actually 9 million. So the difference in those two, that $700,000, is that going to be spent in a particular area?
Diane, those are soft costs. We have the 8.3 value in the contract was 5 prime contracts. It does not include architectural, does not include our furniture, did not include the Boyle construction contract, doesn't include our CSI contract. So that money is accounted for with other items in the project.
And can you report to us where we are with those costs? Are we on schedule?
Yes.
And how much of that amount of money has been expended so far?
Diane, we would have to get those specific numbers from all the different contracts that we have.
Okay, is that something you can prepare for us so we're aware of where we are in that department?
Yes, Diane, as soon as we wrap up this budget, we will provide that data.
Perfect, thank you.
While I'm sorry to interrupt, but while I have you here, I'll just give you a quick update because it is your building on the library. So we are on schedule. We are on schedule at the library. We hope to be complete at the library by the middle of January. So they're pretty much on the same trajectory that the township is in terms of completing there as well. The addition is under roof, it's watertight, and we're working interior now on utilities. If you haven't been in the library since we started, the entire existing part of the building has been renovated. The finishes are going on now. So I believe Debbie has told me that they anticipate moving in probably the middle of February as well. So it looks like both projects should generally be completed, including punch list, by the end of January.
I have a question about the library. Tony, you just stated it's our building. Maybe this is a question for the township manager. I was under the understanding that the library, we have a lease with them, and that so does the building belong to South Whitehall and we're funding the renovation to the library?
No, we do not fund the renovation to the library. We own the building. We have a library lease with them. Joe Zader could perhaps elaborate on the specifics of the lease, but we have a long-term lease with the library. But they are incurring the expenses of their renovation.
Okay, so we own it. I believe they pay us $1 a.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
Renee summarized it perfectly. At the end of the day, when that lease is over, which is decades from now, the building with the renovation would be owned by the township, just as the township technically owns it all now.
Thank you for clarifying. I was not sure how that relationship worked.
Any other questions for Tony on the renovation project from the board? Any from the public? Chat open, Renee?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, Tony, thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving us the update. It's very exciting.
I appreciate you having me. If you need me to come to another meeting to update you, I'd be happy to do it.
Excellent, Tony, thank you. Thanks for all the hard work, much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome, thanks.
All right, Renee, did you have any updates on the credit cards?
No, I do not at this point.
All right. Okay, so we're going to move right into courtesy of the floor. We did have 2 requests this evening, prior requests for courtesy of the floor. First would be Mr. Brian Height. Brian, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Brian Height, 1273 Eck Road in South Whitehall. I did have a lot to discuss in regards to the construction, as you're well aware, occurring across the road from my home. However, in light of conversations I had today with the owners of the project, as well as their construction management, I will truncate my remarks with optimism that a meeting Friday with management, their construction management folks, will be beneficial for everyone involved. I am also hopeful that this will be the last time I need to prolong a township meeting with my personal statements concerning the impacts that the construction has caused to my property, as well as to the health, safety, and welfare of my family. I would like to acknowledge and thank the township's staff, Herb Bender and Mike Elias. They have done everything within their power to help mitigate the impacts and problems that being a neighbor to this project has caused to my property. They've both been phenomenal, and I'm proud to live in a township where they are employed. We need more Herb Benders and Mike Eliases in our lives who care about the community and the residents and the businesses. That being said, I do have 2 comments or questions to ask. One, the first part is there a policy or an ordinance or a rule in regards to keeping roads clean that are being accessed for construction projects? While I have seen issues every day, the sanctity of my weekends are being impacted significantly now by the weekend construction work. The trucks leaving the site track mud onto the roads, and no one on site or off site for that matter cleans the roads. I submitted a YouTube link with the request to appear at this courtesy of the floor, showing the conditions I live with when a car travels down Eck Road on a dry day. The pulverized dirt is so embedded that you can barely see the double yellow lines on the road. I've never seen a street sweeper on a weekend, but I've seen lots of construction activities. As a car travels down, it looks like a Wild West dust storm. So once again, I was wondering if there's a regulation involving the dirt removal from roads at construction sites on a daily basis. It is hard to do yard work and be dirt dusted to the point you have to wear a mask in your own backyard as to not cough. So that's my first. And then secondly, it deals with the South Whitehall Township Noise Control Ordinance. Does that cover dump trucks slamming their cargo beds trying to remove stuck stone when they deliver that stone to a site, a construction site, on a Sunday? so loud that you can hear it inside the house with everything closed and the TV on, watching the Eagles lose. I am wondering if the current construction permit holders have been notified, or all the construction permit, whoever has a permit in the township have been notified of the noise control ordinance, or is it being addressed on a reactive basis? I was ignoring the Sunday noise issues with the hope that the construction would end sooner, but it's almost become an intentional act of disturbance to my property the last 3 weekends. So those are my two questions, one about street sweeping and the other about the noise control ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I'll defer Renee or staff if we have any information on a particular ordinance, or if we can get back to Brian with information on that ordinance if it's in place to answer his questions.
We will get back to Brian. We were looking into some things earlier this afternoon, and I don't know that we received our answers yet about some pre-construction meetings with Sunday construction, that type of thing. So Brian, we will get back to you as soon as we know the answer to some of them, okay?
That's fine, thank you. You know how to get a hold of me, so thank you.
Thanks, Brian, as always, for bringing this to our attention, and good luck in your meeting coming up on Friday. So, all right.
I just wanted to add, does that, Renee, were you answering both of his questions?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Would it be possible to let the full board know I'm curious to these answers myself, and just as a general rule, what our township policy and or ordinance would be for these things. So if you would email the full board what the answers are, I think that would be helpful for all of us, since we're all have been aware of Brian's issues with this particular development. I personally drove in that area over the weekend and witnessed for myself some of what Brian is talking about. So I can appreciate the challenges he's facing.
Absolutely, Diane. We'll report back to the full board.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Brian. Next on our courtesy of the floor, we had Brian Pinella. Brian Pinella, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Brian.
How you doing? I called in 2 months ago complaining about, and again, I'm getting no help with this at all from the fire commissioner about what Centroni Fire Department did to my house on July 11th when he came in and purposely vandalized my house. And I still got no window. My family's suffering. I asked for a meeting with Centroni Fire Department to get some questions answered, and I'm getting nothing. I'm getting blown off, and I really do not appreciate this from the fire commissioner at all. Now this has cost me a lot of money because I got no window, and I got all this cold air coming into my house while I'm working with my insurance company. Can anybody help me out with this? Because I feel like I'm the victim, and Centroni Fire Department's getting a pat on the back for a job well done. I mean, these guys are not welcome on other fire grounds at all. I mean, I've heard this from other chiefs, fire chiefs, because I'm part of the fire service. I mean, can anybody explain this to me? Why these guys are not being reprimanded for what they did?
So, Brian, thanks for bringing this to our attention again. So, Brian, I'm gonna, and I'm not sure if Chris is on the line or not, but if not, we will make sure that Chris, Commissioner Kitcheravich, Commissioner Kitcheravich gets a hold of you immediately as for follow-up. And Glenn, if Chris isn't on the line tonight, maybe you could feedback or gather some more information and touch base directly with Mr. Pinella to find out the status on this.
I'll work with Chris first thing tomorrow morning and try to get something set up by the end of the week so you have an answer, hopefully tomorrow, Brian.
Yeah, I've been waiting 4 months now for an answer, and I'm getting nothing. I said, Centroni got a pat on the back for a job well done for coming to my house and destroying it. Okay, they disobeyed the fire chief's orders on the fire grounds. They get a pat on the back, but my family suffers. Every day we're reminded what they did to our house because I got a broken window, a broken cabinet, a floor that was damaged. I'm working with my insurance company, but these guys don't even have the courage, the backbone to even reach out to me and apologize or offer to fix the damage. But they get a pat on the back, and they're allowed to keep going. I mean, Chris is doing nothing. The fire commissioner's doing nothing to these guys besides rewarding them,
So,
and it's pretty irritating.
so Brian, I can assure you that Commissioner, Fire Commissioner Kitsaravich and Chief Dorney, they'll touch base with you, as early as tomorrow, and give you the status and update and on what's happening and get you the support you need. So, Glenn, do you have the contact information for Mr. Pinella?
I will be able to get it without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be working tomorrow. Give me a buzz anytime.
Okay, Brian. Well, yeah, I'll reach out. I'll personally reach out to you tomorrow, and I'll get you some answers.
I appreciate it, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for the update. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
And I'd like to request again, this is the second time that Mr. Pinella has spoken with us. So either Chief Dorney or the Township Manager Renee, if you would get the full board, just keep us in the loop to what the resolution was to this. I would appreciate that as well.
Yeah, as soon as we get some answers, I will make sure that the full board is aware.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Okay, is there anybody else this evening for courtesy of the floor? We can open up the chat make sure the chat is open. Anybody else for courtesy of the floor this evening? I'm not seeing anything. All right. I'd like to note that our invoices and our purchasing requisitions have been reviewed by our Township Manager and the Director of Finance. We do need a motion to move forward tonight to authorize that our checks be issued to pay our bills as tabulated. Do I hear said motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Seton. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Mobilio. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
I'm going to vote no. I have for the last 11 months asked for copies of invoices. I know there was a mix-up with getting them to me in time for tonight's meeting, so I personally haven't been able to review. So I'm going to say no on this.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we have no executive sessions planned for this evening. I do need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yes.
From Commissioner, I think that was Walk. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and a very wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Be safe.